Happy Mother's Day, all the mothers out there and the fathers who help the mothers. But today we have Lee Murray and Celine Murray. This is a mother-daughter team, also a writer-editor team, and a writer-writer team with us today. And we're celebrating Mother's Day. It was last week in New Zealand, I believe you said, and it's this weekend here. So happy Mother's Day to everybody all over the world.
Yes, happy Mother's Day to everyone, and it's nice actually to be able to extend it a whole week, right?
Yeah. And see, and it might be Mother's Day somewhere else next week, so we can't just keep going.
Yeah, good idea.
So, I want to thank you both for being on here, because not always do mothers and daughters get along, but I happen to know both of you, and I know you guys have a really strong, super special relationship. So I feel safe asking you this about Asian mother-daughter relationships. How true are the tropes? What do you guys think? The whole dragon mom thing. I mean, do you guys have that?
Gosh, am I a dragon mom?
I'll say that I know a lot of people who are afraid of you. So, I
mean... If you need to private message me, Celine, go ahead. I won't tell. No, but seriously, I know that like in literature and stuff, there's always like really conflicted relationships. And I know I've had conflicted relationships with my family. What do you guys think of that? Like, how true is that in general?
I think in modern society, there's that element of hunger, that wanting more. And one of the things about modern society is that women are taught that we can expect, we should be able to get, be our authentic selves and get an education and live the life we want to live. Whereas in Asian traditional society, that's not allowed. Your whole world should be your family, your husband, first of all, your father's family, and then your husband's family. And you must look after your mother-in-law, and you must nurture your children, and everything else is by the by. Your own dreams and aspirations don't count. And so when you have these tropes of tiger mum and dragon mothers, and, it's all about, fulfilling their own dreams through their children, because you are not allowed as an Asian woman within those traditional, expectations to have something for yourself. And what's really interesting about the whole supernatural aspect, the fox spirits and the hungry ghosts and some of those other Asian, mythology, one person's myth is another person's faith, but, those notions, those ways of explaining, our culture and our heritage. I can hear something in the background. Sorry, I'm not quite sure.
Oh, no, that's fine. I'm going to mute myself.
But I think one of the things is that, we're not allowed to be that. And so that is why those tropes have come around, is because women are trying to fulfill themselves through their children, and which is really sad, isn't it? So, and I think that some of the conflict now with modern young women is like, well, Mum, I don't have to do that. I don't have to be you. I don't have to, and so we're conflicted as mothers, like, well, what did I do wrong? Why, and we realize too as mothers that we've been complicit with those sort of patriarchal notions that have gone before. And so there's all this guilt that comes from, first of all, not complying, and then also what have we placed on our daughters, and what awful, expectations have we placed on our daughters. So Asian women are kind of in conflict personally with themselves, and, with the generation that went before and the generation that's coming through. So, we're basically a contradiction of conflict, if you like.
Yeah, I think as well, it's not just the dreams that you have that you're putting on your children, but also like your fears comes through in a lot of those narratives, where if there's some way that you've been seen as a mother to be not cutting the grade, then you push your kids to be able to do that. And I would also say that feeling of I don't like, from the child's point of view, that I don't have to be you. It's also that I can't be you, especially with the diaspora. our culture is different, you know, like I have different things than you had, and so you're never going, as a child, you're never going to reach that goal because you have a totally different life experience.
It's interesting because Celine and I were talking about this not that long ago, and where I wrote in my essay for Unquiet Spirits that I'd spent my childhood watching my mother burn incense or joss sticks to the ancestors to celebrate her ancestors, and I'd seen her mother do it as well, my grandmother, my pawpaw. And so I wrote this in my essay, and in response, Celine said, "Well, Mum, I never saw you do that. You never did that. That's a whole part of my heritage that I've completely missed." So it's interesting. What she's saying is completely right. We don't live the same we're living in different times, generations, 20, 25 years of difference. So of course those things are, our expectations and our lives are different. My mother got to fifth form, I think. So she was 15 when she left school and went to work. I was able to do two higher degrees, and that was because my parents wanted that for me, and also my mother married a European. And then Celine's had those same opportunities and more, because she was able to travel in a way that we weren't able to travel when we were young. So the world just is different. So Celine's right. Our experience is different in different generations, so the pressures are different.
Do you think, and I guess this is more for Celine, do you think you will bring some of those back if you have children? I mean, that's not everybody has to have children, which is what I tell my children. But if you did, do you think that would be something that you would want to bring back to future generations?
Yeah, see, I think that's interesting because we're mixed cultures, that you have to make a space for yourself and choose which things you care about and which things you want to have in your life. But then your kid might feel like that they've missed out on the things that you didn't bring with you, but you can't carry all of those things. So you have to pick which ones are, feel the most validating or like help you to connect to those things. I haven't decided whether or not I'll pick that one up again, actually.
Or maybe make completely new ones, like a blend of all of them as we're blended.
Yeah, I mean, Celine's always been her own self. That's the other thing. She's always been quite a self-contained person, and so she's always taught me more than I've taught her. I think that's really the interesting thing. And I mean, we do, and I think one of the things about some of the work that we've been doing with Black Cranes and Tortured Willows and Unquiet Spirits has been this dialogue between mothers and daughters. And for Celine and I mean, I've been able to talk to my mother about various things that we've been writing about. And for Celine and I, it's kind of become, well, partly the talking to each other through these two essays in Unquiet Spirits, but also through poetry. So Celine and I have this thing where we get on Messenger and I send her a poem I've written and she'll send me a poem she's written. And there's a conversation of sort of, sometimes a couple of days go by, and but for me as a writer, I think that's really wonderful. It's really exciting to be able to communicate what we're feeling through just a little poem here and there, and maybe none of it's too scintillating, but it's valuable to us as a different form of language, we can have a conversation like this, but also we have this little secret thing that the boys in our family don't have,
Well, they know now.
And they don't care. They don't care.
Yeah, it's not their thing at all.
Yeah, which is good. This is your thing. Well, I'm glad you brought up the writing the poetry, because I know the story, but I happen to know that you guys wrote together in Unquiet Spirits, a certain book that came out a few months ago. Can you tell me, because I know Celine did an essay, and then, like I said, I know this story, so I feel like a little bit silly asking you to tell it, but not everybody knows it, and I love that story, how that all happened. So Unquiet Spirits being the book that is probably making just wiping the nation right now, papering the nation in, I'm going to say awards and sales from Black That's my guess.
Certainly been some really great buzz since its release, so we're super excited about where it's going and just the lives that it might reach, and we're hoping that some little girl might pick it up and see herself in it and feel not so, feel that she belongs to something bigger. So but yeah, Celine, you can tell the story.
Way to throw her under the bus.
So I actually didn't really know that much. I hadn't heard that much about the project until Mom emailed me, and she wanted me to read and edit her essay for it, which is very common for us. I read a lot of Mom's work, and she sent it to me, and she was like, I need a pretty quick turnaround because we're not that far off needing this to be done. And it was really good. It was really emotional, right? I felt a lot of feelings in response to what Mom had written. And so I thought, well, I was like, I have to do something with these feelings. So I wrote an essay and that was a very short, I think it was like a couple of days. And then, and then I didn't really expect it to go in the book as well, to be honest.
Yeah, but it was wonderful. It was an absolutely wonderful essay. So I'm glad that all that happened.
It was really, I was, there's something really uplifting when your words have moved someone, right? So to actually move someone to write a piece of their own, like a response of their own, is really, that is just as a writer, that's about as good as it gets, right? To have somebody respond in kind to something you've written and feel it strongly enough, and then for it to be your daughter and it to be a beautiful piece of writing that includes original poetry, then that's pretty special. As a mother, that's like the kind of Mother's Day gift that you want, right? And then of course, so I bawled my eyes out, and the first thing I did was send it to Angela and say, well, Celine's just sent me this, and I knew you'd understand, Angela, partly because you and your own daughter also have write poetry and write together. So you've written collaborative things, which is gorgeous, and you've worked together on book projects because Kyra is an artist. So, there's that. You do have the similar sort of relationship in that sense. And then, of course, you understand that whole dialogue between mother and daughter that has arisen out of this work that we've been doing. And look, I'd love it if you tell that story again about how you went down the rabbit hole with your mum with Tortured Willows and the kind of conversation, because this is what we're talking about, opening a dialogue, right?
Yeah, and I think that is, and I do apologize, speaking of children, because my son is in the background. That's why I keep muting. So
is that what the sound was? I wasn't sure. I thought it was maybe feedback from Celine and I being in the same house at the moment.
No, we have company over, and so I heard some yelling. They're having a little bit of a fun time.
Well, Mother's Day. It's Mother's Day.
Yeah. So this is what we put up with as mothers. It's great. Now, I want to comment on that essay because when it came in, from my perspective, it was like a very emotional moment for me as well. So, and I think I was bawling my eyes out.
Oh, yeah, just and it's and I was really grateful for you, because straight away you said we need to put this in the book, and we were a bit lucky because we were able to, Black Spot was fabulously facilitating, and we were able to find that extra word count and all of that, so that was just terrific, because it doesn't always follow in a book project, right? You have very tight constraints. We only have space for this many stories, etc., etc. And of course, everyone had a lot to say. There was the work that we got in was, really solid. So it was really hard, we didn't expect that, and so
no, I really didn't think it was going to be.
It's wonderful. It's really wonderful. So while it isn't nepotism, it kind of is, and it's just. But I
happen to be in the right place, and the right place is your house.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it was very well deserved.
No, but I think one of the things is that this is a discussion about, and so it seemed fitting to have at least one discussion between mother and daughter that was on the page, But Genevieve Flynn is talking about the Kwikiara and generational trauma in her essay, and she admits freely that she spent a lot of time working with her mother. Right, and she feels that although her name is on the essay, that it is a collaborative effort with her mum, and and I cannot say how much I am just so thrilled to hear that these conversations are going broader and going back, and people are talking to great aunts and mothers and grandmothers to find out more about their own heritage, and those things have been reflected in these essays. It's very clear how many times grandmothers have been an essential part of the growing up and the understanding of heritage, and and when we're talking about the Asian diaspora, and when you are removed from that original place of heritage, if you like, for me, I'm a third generation Chinese, Japanese, New Zealander, and I also am part European. And so it's a real mix of a melting pot, and I don't know about those other things. And it's only through grandmothers and grandparents and your parents that that you really understand some of the secrets that have not been said. And these conversations are just so important, because so much is lost otherwise if we don't pass these things on. And also, there's also the flip side, what is tradition, isn't it? But rules made by dead people, that we're supposed to follow. And so that's also an issue, right? So how are we going to adhere to previous tradition, and what does that mean? Does that mean we're less flexible, or does that mean we hold on to, what do we hold on to, and what do we let go of?
And what evolves? I mean, because we're changing, we have new traditions, new connections. I mean, and that's one of the cool things about that book and this whole series, from Black Cranes to now, and all of the things you said is the bridges that we've built. Well, I'm sorry, I don't know why I said we.
No, it's we. It's not at all. It's an old story now. So it is an old story now, and I've told it lots of times, where Genevieve Flynn and I were at a conference, and we arrived too early, like two conscientious Asian girls, and we arrived too early at an event, and we got talking, and we saw that instant connection of, well, of course we're early because we're the Asian girls, right? So we're very conscientious, and probably we both took the bus as well, because we can't drive. But no, and so that spawned, we started talking. Why isn't there? Where are our voices? And Angela's name was one of the very first names I raised, because I had met Angela some years before at a StokerCon event, and I'm going to say Rena was another name that I said straight away. And I think because Rena Mason, at the time, she was a 2-time Bram Stoker award-winning author, and I met her there. I think you did too, Angela. It was the first time you met Rena. And I don't know about you, but I just kind of thought, wow, there is someone who looks like me, who's doing it, doing it, who's out there putting these, dark narratives. And she's got such a spectacular voice as well, in terms of the way she writes. She's so versatile. And, and I thought, well, there's space for me. There might be space for me. And that's so important. And I think that's part of what we're doing here in these new anthologies, Black Cranes, Tortured Willows, and now Unquiet Spirits, is mean that we're kind of opening a conversation and letting other people in. It isn't just me, it's you, and it's Celine, and it's all the women in Unquiet Spirits and beyond that, and the people whose stories we're telling that can't tell them. So, Genevieve's mum and my mum, they're so much a part of these stories, aren't they? Your mother, with your new Kikubi story, it's just they're there, even if they're not there, So your mother is always watching you, Celine.
Oh, yeah.
I'm well aware.
She's literally in the next room right now at this moment. Now, do you see? I mean, I especially love the two of you coming on today. So I thank you for that. But I really see this as like proof of the intergenerational bridge that we're talking about. I mean, here you are, the editor, and then Celine coming along and writing a gorgeous essay. That's what it's all about right there.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's so much connection through writing, isn't there? You know, Celine's always been a reader, like from the time that she was 3 months. This is the mother telling the story here. She would sit in a high chair with a little book in her hand, you know, those little books with one page and a word, one page, and she would bat the book because she'd worked out, you know, that if she batted the book, the pages would turn, there'd be a new picture and a new word. And her little face, and of course now, it's much easier. You can just swipe an iPad or something, be much easier. But in the day, and she was bilingual as well, which is not Chinese. I wish we'd learned Chinese, but and so, you know, we did share a love of story from the very, very beginning, from very early on. And Celine already had talent as a writer, you know, like before, you know, she was writing stories in school, and she put her first book out when she was 17 of short stories, and you know, and she's an award-winning writer in her own right. So and as well as being an excellent editor, so she's actually been very instrumental in my own work, because everything I write I send to Celine for her reaction and for her editorial input. And so, you know, she has had a lot of influence. So it's chicken and egg, really, you know, because you know, and we both like those creative aspects. Yeah, so I can't say it's all me, and it's, you know, it's not one way. It's kind of it's two ways, isn't it? It's a conversation, and I'm learning a lot from Celine. She has a very different perspective from me. You know, a different lifestyle, and just, it's really a lot of, you know, really eye-opening for me, because, you know, I have one perspective, and Celine has, just like you say, that different life experience. It makes
a different culture.
Yeah.
I think as well, like if I'm going back to how we send poetry back and forth, writing is also, for me at least, makes it easier to talk about some of those things. If you send a poem, it's hard to send a message to someone and be like, here's an intense feeling I'm feeling, just like as a normal conversation. If you're writing something, or you're sending something that you've written, those feelings are in there, and it's like the start of a conversation, but it doesn't feel as difficult to do. So I think that writing can be kind of bridging in that way as well.
Well, since I have a daughter here, what's your defining moment where you decided to be a writer? I'm sorry, that is me judging that you have decided to be a writer, but because you write so beautifully, you're obviously a writer. Maybe other things. I don't want to corner you into that. It's a tough road. Your mom can tell you all about it. I'm sure she has. But where did you fall in love with with writing and language? Like, do you remember that?
Yeah, I've always loved languages. I think, well, a lot of my study has been in language. I did an exchange when I finished high school, and I have studied languages and linguistics and speech therapy in my university career. And I really enjoy the connection between language and culture. And people, because the point of language is to communicate with people, and that's what I've always really cared about. I didn't write anything for quite a long time, and I'm sort of getting back into it now, I think. Maybe especially because I have a history of editing, and I haven't had as much confidence in my own work in the past, but my skills as an editor give me a little bit more confidence in what I'm doing now. So I feel like maybe in the future I will get back into my own stuff now that I have a stronger understanding of, you know, the kind of style that I like.
Yeah. Well, I certainly hope so, because
you
have a good model.
Well, and Mum and I have been sending poetry back and forth, which I had never written poetry before a couple of years ago. And I had written some and I sent them to Mum, and Mum sent some back. And that conversation has been like one of the things that's driven me writing more poetry. So there's that as well.
Well, that's awesome. That's awesome.
Well,
That's
isn't that how that worked with you in Kyra? It was kind of like, wasn't that a kind of COVID project? How did that crack and seed work?
Yeah, it was. It was because she was very afraid of everything that was going on. She'd actually gotten stuck in Brazil. And it was just meant to be a vacation. COVID hit, lockdown, the same story that many of us experience. And so because there was so much fear there, we started writing poetry back and forth, because it's how you could, like you said, say the things that are scaring you maybe, but without, you certainly don't want to be like, her fear and then bring it up like, oh, so you're scared of death? Yeah, I guess that might happen, So we would write these poems about things in metaphor, and that was kind of how we had conversations about what was happening without feeding the fear, I guess.
Yeah, and it's a beautiful collection, and actually it's done in a really lovely way, because but the poems are kind of set one on one side of, on top right and top left of the page, and so you see the kind of conversation going on between mother and daughter. It's really rather lovely. And that many tentacled thing that a kraken is, obviously it was this monstrous thing that's lurking outside while you were trying to have a conversation about the thing that was lurking outside and the real emotions that were coming through. It was a beautiful, and it did very well. I think it get an Elgin nomination.
I think it did get an Elgin nomination.
Yeah,
so that was very cool.
Yeah,
and her first, which I was kind of a little bit like, your first poetry book.
Yeah, it's so not fair, isn't it? Yeah, exactly.
But hang on, some of that is your doing, right? Because when you're a kid and you grow up with it, you start off with more skills than a lot of other people who are just getting into it. So
yes, I'm writing that down so I can pass that on.
Anything you do, it's like, and also, of course, as the mother, you get to say, you get the last say as the mother, because you're the mother. Right, there's a status thing, and the mother is the mother.
Yeah, well,
and it's Mother's Day, so I can say that.
Exactly, and I do want to say, like, all our children's accomplishments are really ours, right?
Of course,
as mothers.
And when they stuff up, when there's nothing to do with that,
that's all from the father. Father's Day is a while from now. We don't have to worry about that.
Yeah, well, and actually, I think having supportive partners is actually, we've been very lucky that does help too with projects like, writing is really tough, and creative arts are difficult, and so as for me as an Asian woman writing in New Zealand, there isn't a lot a lot of opportunity for people in literature, particularly in horror, and so just having a partner that believes in both Celine and I have partners that believe in what we're doing, and that's really important as well to us. We could I do it on my own? Probably, but it would be harder, so I think it's nice to acknowledge that, and that's how Celine, that's how I am a mother. So it is, that's been an important part of my writing in any case. So, but I also love it that my kids are just geeky, absolutely adore horror and science fiction, and just that's the thing. Poor old dad, isn't it? I mean, poor old dad really sits at the dinner table and we're all gassing about some story or another, and dad's going, what is that, Harry Potter, or is that no dad, no, it's not, like he's just
That's so funny. And I did just note that your mom just called you geeky on a public show, Celine. I mean, that's fine. Now. That is a compliment, though, right now.
I know who I am. It's all right.
She owns it.
As a mother of geeks myself, I mean, what we always think is the geeks are the ones running everything right now. So what are some of the other things you guys do? Oh, I'm sorry.
No, that's all right. That's all good.
Yeah. Well, I just wanted to hear, so we heard about the writing. What are some of the other things that you guys do? I mean, you obviously have a very strong relationship. That picture of both of you together is gorgeous.
Thank
You
you.
guys just fit together as a mother and daughter. It's beautiful to see.
Well,
What are
she is
some of
my
the-
favorite
yeah.
daughter, I have to say. She is my
Well, yeah, you
favorite.
do. In fact, you do have to say.
Oh, that poor old other daughter. I'm so sorry.
So
what else do we
well,
do?
we like to craft. We're both a bit anxious, aren't we, Celine? So we like to do things that de-escalate our anxieties. So Celine's a big crafter. She loves to do embroidery and hand,
Nice.
cross stitching, and I like to knit. I haven't done that for a while. I like to paint, and so we both like to walk. So yeah, we both like to cuddle the dog. So
Yep.
we do have something. Celine's a big board gamer. She loves that.
Yeah.
And I am less. I always lose. So I'm not good on.
See, the thing is, you don't always lose. You don't, but you seem not to have a great time even when you're winning. So I don't know.
I don't know what it is, but anyway, I'm just not great at games. But Celine's very good at board games, and so she always sort of pulls all the family in for those kinds of things. And we also like food. We don't like cooking. Neither of us are great at cooking, but we love eating. We're really good at eating. We don't have any problem with that. Love yum cha and love anything my mother cooks is really good, eh, Celine?
Yeah, I will definitely agree with that. Yeah.
Fantastic. So we're a couple of foodies really. So we do like to try restaurants, and we both love to travel. So we have quite a lot of things in common, and we have traveled a bit together.
Yeah.
So we've been very lucky in that sense. And we also love language. So both of us speak French. Neither of us speak Chinese, unfortunately. We don't speak Maori either, but we need to fix that.
We're gonna work on that. Yeah.
But we do love. We like French language, and so we're often talking about that as well. And we read in French. So those are things we share as well. Books.
That's awesome. That was awesome. Do you guys have anything coming up, like collaborative, or what is the future for the Murrays? Which could be a band now that I'm thinking about
we'll
it.
see.
Yeah, well, a film that I've been working on is is going into editing. Production and editing, and just winding up. I'm working on a novel because it's been a long time since I've written one. I haven't got very far yet, so I can't really say much more about that. And Celine and I are thinking maybe some of those poems we could put together in a little chapbook. So we're thinking about that as well.
Yes.
How about you, Celine?
I expect I'll be editing pretty much anything that Mum does always. So that's always in the future. Yeah.
Yes. Well, I might know a publisher that might be interested in your chapbook. I don't want to say names right now, but I'm just saying.
Well, thank you for that offer. Yeah, so I'm trying to encourage Celine. Celine has a Sir Julius Vogel Award for novella, but she's a short novella, and so she's never really tried something much longer, but she's doing a lot of mentorship and editing work with people who are writing novels, so she feels it's probably getting time for her to write her own, just to bring that experience to bear. And so I'm trying to encourage her, and so we've been talking about ideas. I'd love to see her do it, but because basically I want to read it. That's really the reason.
Well, now I do too. I've already read the essay, so more, please.
So yeah, and I think probably Celine could try a hand at some more essays, because I think she's got some things to say. But obviously I'm the mother and I don't want to come across as the tiger mom, so maybe I should just sit back in my seat here.
We'll see.
Well, I have loved having both of you on. That's about it for today. I wish both of you happy Mother's Day, happy daughter of a Mother's Day as well. And I really hope I see more of you, Celine. Your essay was beautiful. I really do look forward to reading more of you. And your mom, I already know, was wonderful. So,
thank you so much for having us.
Thank
Yeah,
you so
thank
much
you.
too. And now we're going to we always end with a poem from the Poetry Spotlight. So this is today's poem, or this week's poem.